We have a wonderful evening's entertainment lined up for you.
The 23.
Hey, what's up you guys? This is Steffi, aka In My Humble Opinion, and welcome back to another IMHO Film Club movie review. So in today's video, I'm going to be talking about the newly released comedy coming-of-age film entitled Booksmart. So Booksmart stars Beanie Feldstein, Caitlin Denver, Billy Lord, Noah Galvin, Skylar Gisondo, Jessica Williams, Jason Sudeikis, Lisa Kudrow, and Will Forte. The movie is the directorial debut of Olivia Wilde, and it was written by Susanna Fogel, Emily Halpern, Sarah Haskins, and Katie Silberman. Booksmart is about two high school besties named Amy and Molly, and they have worked their asses off to get into the Ivy Leagues at the cost of having a social life filled with parties and fun. So the school that they attend has this policy of not telling anybody where you're going to college after you graduate. And the day before their graduation, they are horrified to learn that their peers, who they basically looked down on for partying throughout all of high school, also got into Ivy Leagues and other equally good schools, and one of them even has a job offer at Google. So Amy and Molly take it upon themselves to fit 4 years of high school partying into one night. And of course, a lot of shit goes down, and it makes for a really, really entertaining movie. So as in all my movie reviews, I'm gonna be talking about the pros, the cons, and then I'm gonna be giving my overall rating. So here we go. Alright, so pro number one for me is the casting. So there's lots of young actors, new faces in this movie, which is really, really refreshing. Casting for the two leads was perfect. Spot on. The side characters as well were also really, really great. Like Billy Lord, for me, among the side characters, was a standout. Every time she literally pops up, like quite literally pops up in this movie, it's such a joy. She's so funny. Skylar Gisondo, I've never really watched any of his previous work. He's really funny as well. I know I keep saying they're all really funny, but like genuinely, they're all really funny. The adult cast, like Lisa Kudrow and Will Forte play the parents of Caitlin Denver. It was great to see Jessica Williams in this as like the cool teacher, and then Jason Sudeikis plays their principal, who is like so over his job. Casting that level of talent for your adult cast just gives this movie the comedic credit that it really does deserve. Alright, pro number two for me is the chemistry between your two leads. So again, your leads are played by Beanie Feldstein and Caitlin Denver. They play the two best friends, Amy and Molly. I believe the first scene of them is Amy picking up Molly from where she lives to, you know, go to school. Just in that first scene alone, like just the way that they interact with each other and like their little inside jokes, you can just tell that they're such good friends. They really play off well with one another, and I don't know how much of what they did together was improvised, but it feels like they're just like making it up on the spot. And aside from obviously the comedic moments, the dramatic scene, which is when they fight, you really take that to heart, and that scene really, it feels very personal, because throughout the movie you have seen what close friends these two girls are and how far they're willing to go for one another, that when they do get to the point in the movie where they have that big dramatic fight scene, it feels very heartbreaking and sad. My third pro of this movie was Olivia Wilde's direction. You know what? You go, girl. I didn't know you had it in you, but apparently you did. She directed the shit out of this movie. This movie is so well directed, and it's amazing that this is her directorial debut. She made so many interesting artistic choices in the way that she chose to tell this story. Like, for instance, when Molly finds out that all the other kids in her school got into amazing colleges, when she loses it, it is so reminiscent to me of Tracy Flick in Election. And I feel like by making those subtle references to those other iconic dark comedy teen-centric movies, you can tell that Olivia Wilde studied those movies, took what those movies did great, and made it her own. Like, she really, really did her homework. As a director, one of your jobs is to try and get the best performance out of your actors, and I feel like Olivia Wilde was able to get amazing performances. It feels like she's definitely an actor's director because she knows that world so well. Therefore, she knows how to communicate to her cast, and the acting in general in this movie just came off as so natural. All right, my fourth pro to this movie, and it's a big one. It succeeded so well in representing its genre, which to me is a coming-of-age teen comedy. Like I've said a million times throughout this entire review, this movie is genuinely funny. I pretty much laughed throughout the entire thing, and my theater was laughing out loud with me. The entire movie is a journey because it's these two girls trying to get to this popular guy's house party. So along the way, they have a lot of missteps to get to the party, and they find themselves in the most random situations. But honestly, while I was watching the movie, I didn't even care if they ended up making the party or not, because the getting there was so much fun. And then, of course, as a coming of age movie, I definitely felt like there were so many moments where you saw these characters come of age. First of all, the ticking clock here is the fact that they're graduating, so that's a huge milestone in anybody's life. And then you see both of these girls trying to have like their first sexual experiences, and their friendship throughout the course of this movie is tested. The teenagers in this movie, like, they acted and sounded like teenagers in 2019. It's been a while since I've been a teenager, but for me, my perspective of teenagers in 2019 is that they're so smart and witty and fast. They're very socially and culturally aware of what is going on. They're a bit on edge and unsure of themselves, but I mean, who isn't as a teenager? And teenagers, especially in 2019, are all about being their authentic selves. So I really feel like they nailed that persona. Alright, so now talking about the cons. My first itty bitty con, it's very nitpicky, is that I did not understand why Amy, during their fight, did not tell Molly what she saw. I just felt like, for me, the girls seemed smarter than that, the movie seemed smarter than that, and I get that this was sort of like the friendship's breaking point, you know? This was supposed to be a high moment of tension for these characters, for this story, but I just felt like it was so unrealistic that at no point whatsoever while they were fighting, Amy would not try to tell Molly what she saw. My second con, this is a bigger con now, is I hated what they did with Jessica Williams' character. For Jessica Williams to be this black woman who is also like the cool teacher in the school was like, yes, amazing. But then they give her this like really creepy storyline in the movie where after she drives the girls to the party, she goes inside the house. This is a high school party, by the way. And then one of the male students who has like a crush on her starts flirting with her. And then she starts flirting back. And then later on, we learn that I guess she slept with him. And I'm not quite sure if this high school student is a legal consenting age, but still, that's really, really creepy. And I just hate that they gave the only pretty much main cast person of color that storyline. That character deserved better, and Jessica Williams deserved better. Alright, so my overall rating for this movie is a solid A-. This movie is very fun, very entertaining. The characters are genuinely funny, and I felt like I was on a wild adventure with them. However, and this is a big however, and honestly, I was debating whether or not to include this particular portion in my cons list because I don't even know if this is a fair critique. And I'm gonna call myself out on it. Maybe this isn't a fair critique. Maybe I'm just complaining. But the movie is very white, and I struggle if that's a valid critique. When I went on like my whole Twitter rampage at 2 in the morning questioning if something is too white is a fair critique, I got a variety of responses. Some saying like, yeah, that is a fair thing to point out. But then I got another interesting reply that was like, maybe your critique isn't necessarily that it felt white, but that it lacked diversity. And the thing is, this movie actually technically didn't lack diversity. You have the cool teacher being played by a black woman. Molly and Amy's classmates are racially diverse. Noah Galvin's character in this movie, he's gay, and his friend in the movie is black and gay. I mean, like, technically they are checking off these like boxes, I guess to say, and I hate putting it in those terms, but sometimes I feel like that's what these movies are doing. It's like, we're not gonna give like people of color the main roles, we're just gonna give them these side roles to check off the boxes. I don't believe that's what they were doing with this movie, but because you position those sorts of characters as side characters, it kind of feels like that's what's happening here. And I get why this story is about 2 white girls in high school. The story was written by 4 white ladies, the movie is directed by a white lady, and your main leads are 2 white girls. They have every right to tell that story because that's their experience of living in this world. And quite frankly, they they execute that story so well in this movie. But maybe for me, that critique of this movie is like too quote unquote white. While that may be true to a certain extent, that doesn't necessarily like make it a bad thing. But at the same time, it just opens my eyes to the fact that there is such a lack of coming of age movies centered on a person of color's experience, and especially a young brown or black girl's coming of age experience. I hope by me pointing this out there, it's not to start a hate train on this movie. I think this movie is so funny. It's so great. I genuinely feel like this movie has the potential to be one of those generation defining movies of its time. Like, you know, when we look back on the 80s, people think of like, what was that iconic teen movie of the 80s? It was The Breakfast Club. 90s, you have Clueless. You also had Dazed and Confused coming out of the 90s, even though that portrayed the high school experience in the 70s. And then in the 2000s, you have like Mean Girls and Superbad. Those are iconic teen comedy movies that really are classics of its genre. And I feel like in 10-15 years time, when people are like, oh, what was it like to be a teenager in 2019, they're gonna reference Booksmart. Like, I feel like that's how good this movie is. But at the same token, I hope within the next couple of years that there are going to be other movies that will portray a diverse range of coming of age experiences for people of color, because especially given the climate of 2019, since Hollywood is claiming to be all about diversity, I hope that those movies are actually going to be made. And I feel like all of the brown, black kids growing up in 2019 deserve their own coming of age movies as well. Well, that's about it for this video. If you liked it, please give this video a thumbs up. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and please turn on the notification button down below so you know when a new video from me comes out. And comment down below all of your thoughts on Booksmart. I hope you've seen it by now. If you haven't yet, please go see it. Let me know your thoughts on my rant that I went on towards the end of the review, because I think it's a valid thing to point out. Let me know your thoughts on it. And yeah, okay, well, as always, everything I said was just my own personal thoughts and all my humble opinion, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!